You either take my word for it or you don't. And if you don't, Nathaniel, frankly, well, you can just piss off.
You're talking absolute shat.
I knew how this film was going to end 10 minutes in. I guessed the whole thing.
Are you done?
I'm done. What do you give it, Nathaniel?
Nostradamus Shittlebob. 3 out of 10 I'll give it.
Oh, it wasn't great. I must admit that much. But I'm going to give it 5 out of 10.
Okay folks, on the agenda today for our current news slot is the Rugby World Cup in New Zealand, with a particular mention for the CCTV footage uploaded to YouTube showing Mike Tindall, an England player, on a night out with some of his teammates. Not much else to tell really, it's the World Cup and it's rugby, and I'm sure you're all aware of both of those things. Have you been keeping tabs on it, Richard?
Well, I have. Just, in the newspapers. I haven't actually spoken to anybody involved, either directly or indirectly. But is it a storm in a teacup, Nathaniel, or is this genuine cause for concern, do you think?
It's certainly not cause for concern. It's the very notion that this incident has made news is very, very revealing. I mean, it's been labelled a scandal, I believe. I mean, what an absolute joke. Isn't it just a sign of the times that we've got CCTV on every corner of the freaking world, monitoring our every move? And who wants to watch a man drinking outside of a bar? Could it be more banal? Ridiculous.
It is public interest, Nathaniel. Surely the public have a right to know every last thing about their favourite sportsmen and women. Surely you must agree with that.
I completely disagree with that. They have no right to know what this man wants to do in his private time. So he may well have cheated on his royal wife, and so what? It's none of our bloody business.
I think the point is that he's a person in the public spotlight, particularly now during the World Cup, during the peak of that particular sports calendar. So how can it be anything other than public interest?
Because it's his private life. That's why it's called private life. It's private. If he wants to stick his well-muscled todger into a passing beast, he should be allowed to do so.
But he's married. He's married, and not only that, he's married to a royal.
He is. You make it like the mitigating circumstances. Because he's married to a royal wife, he's got what?
Well, if anything, Nathaniel, Tindall should be prosecuted for treason.
Well, what about if the young lady he was associating with was particularly good looking? Oh. Let's face it, Zara Phillips looks like something of a horse. She may have a touch of the equine about her.
She may have a touch of the equine, Nathaniel. That is certainly possible. But he chose to marry her. She hasn't, she didn't look beautiful and radiant when she was younger. She's always looked like Trigger.
Well, perhaps he's got fed up of shagging the bloody horse.
So he should do the decent thing, rip the family home apart, divorce her, even though that's against the code of the Lord. If that's really what he wants, then that would be the more noble option. And then he could do whatever the hell he wants with his muscle todger, as you put it.
Well, let's put ourselves in the shoes of Mike Tindall for a moment, shall we? He's emigrated to New Zealand. He's in having the time of his life, playing in the World Cup, playing the sport he loves, presumably.
Oh, you'd have thought so, wouldn't you?
You'd have thought so, you'd hope so. When is he going to get the chance to go back to New Zealand? He's going to experience that experience to the full, isn't he?
So you're saying, because he's only there once, he can shag who he wants?
Yes.
Is that your position? That's your considered moral position?
That's my considered moral position. Free love.
I don't understand. It's been a few weeks since I prayed for you, Nathaniel, but I think I might start again.
Let Tindall spread his seed all over the Antipodes.
I've got no interest in seeing Tindall's seed spread anywhere, quite frankly. But I do think this is a public interest story. Now, I love rugby, Nathaniel. I've got to tell you, I love rugby. It's a real sport, played by men who look like men. Not the namby-pamby Jessica Fletchers who infest the football fields around the world. These are real men.
True, they're certainly rugged creatures.
I love both codes of rugby as well, as it happens.
Which are?
And I beg your pardon?
Which are?
League and Union.
Oh, well
done. And I've studied the rules closely to discern the difference.
Have you really?
I have.
Had a lot of time on your hands, then?
Not really. It didn't take long, to be honest.
They're very complex.
Oh, not the ones that I read.
What, they both use a ball?
Well, from what I could glean, the only noticeable difference is that the ball is a slightly different shape.
Oh, is that the one for this week?
What do you mean?
Well, you know, you made your raging, inaccurate comments in past weeks about deserts in Africa and oxygen on the moon.
Well, I remember the statements, but there's nothing inaccurate about them.
Well, all the listeners know. I don't need to emphasise the point. So you're suggesting now that rugby league and rugby union use different shaped balls. Is that correct?
From what I could gather, and I've studied some footage as well. I've watched at least half an hour of each.
Shittlebob.
I've watched at least half an hour of each. The only difference between them is that the ball is a different shape.
Do you wear different glasses when you're watching the different games?
I don't know if you know this actually. I met Martin Johnson once.
Did you?
I did. Now I tried to shake his hand, but I was only able to wrap my grip around his bottom 2 fingers.
He's a large unit, isn't he?
He is a man mountain.
He should star in horror films, actually.
You know what? He'd be a perfect Frankenstein.
He would, wouldn't he?
He is monstrous. I think he could be the largest person I've ever met. I've ever seen in the flesh.
Yeah, he's certainly a big old boy.
Oh. When Johnson speaks, only whales and Isaac Hayes can actually understand what he's saying. It rumbles through his diaphragm.
So how did you respond to his rumbling?
Oh, well, I just nodded obsequiously and scuttled off as quickly as I could. I'll be honest with you, I've got no shame about it. He scared the life out of me.
Yeah. He's not from Chile, is he?
I didn't stick around long enough to find out. I don't know what you think about this, Nathaniel, but rugby, in my opinion, should replace football as the national sport. It would certainly toughen up the youngsters, that's for sure. No,
I'm not having any of that. I know what you're saying. Rugby has got a lot of merits. There's a lot of honesty, integrity in that game that football players sadly don't display. But to go to such lengths as replacing it as a national sport, no, never.
I remember playing rugby in the middle of winter with no shirt on.
Right.
Didn't do me any harm.
Well, if that's what's made you the man today, then it probably did you some harm.
My PE teacher was a man called Mr. Martin. And I remember one bitterly cold February morning, I trotted out onto the field with my regulation red shorts on, and poking out of the bottom of the shorts was something that was fashionable at the time, which was boxer shorts.
Yes.
So you had the red sport shorts, but you could see the rim of the white polka dotted boxer shorts.
Okay.
Mr. Martin went absolutely crazy.
Why?
He was furious because he could see the shorts. He hated anything to do with fashion. He was very much anti-fashion, which at the time I didn't appreciate, but I've come around to his way of thinking, in all honesty.
He wasn't one of these seedy PE teachers, was he, who just wanted to see young boys in shorts and shorts only?
Well, I'm getting to that.
Oh, apologies. And
I'm getting to that. You've kind of stolen my thunder, but he sent me off. He told me that I had to go and remove the boxer shorts and just kind of go I think they call it nowadays going commando.
Commando, yeah.
Yeah. That term didn't exist when I was at school, but I think that's what the young kids are calling it these days. Of course, I went to the changing room, started to remove my undergarments, and who should walk in but Mr. Martin.
Yes.
It was very frightening, Nathaniel. It was very frightening.
In what way? Well, you were just doing as you were told.
But he was watching me.
How was he watching you?
He was staring straight at me, Nathaniel, as I was about to take my shorts off.
Perhaps he was getting...
And reveal my little boy's winky.
Perhaps he was getting impatient, because there's a game waiting...
He didn't look impatient. He certainly looked like he had some kind of emotion coursing through him, but he wasn't impatient.
Oh, you think he wanted to have a relationship with you?
He wanted to see me.
And he did?
He didn't.
Oh, he didn't?
I refused.
Oh, what did you do?
I plain refused. I told him that I wouldn't take my shorts off.
Yeah.
Unless he left the room.
Excellent. And what happened?
He went purple in the face.
Did it?
And then stormed off. Never spoke to me again the rest of my school career.
Well, that was a remarkable display of courage, if I may say so.
Thank you.
To stand up to a teacher at such a tender young age. That's quite a story to present to the listeners.
As you know, I do believe in authority.
Yes.
And so, in some ways, I feel that I should have yielded. And yet somehow, even at the age of 13, I knew that it was wrong, Nathaniel. I knew that it was wrong. I knew that it was wrong.
It clearly was wrong. It clearly was wrong, and you were very insightful to recognise that at such an early age. So you're to be applauded.
He was the very definition of a pervert, in my opinion. Now, reflecting back on it now, and the more I think about it, the more dismayed that I became as the years went on. Perhaps that's where my vague sense of homophobia sometimes stems from.
Well, it's not exactly vague, but
Nathaniel, why are you mocking me? I'm trying to share here.
I understand that. I'm not trying to mock you. I'm just pointing out that your sense of homophobia isn't actually vague. It's just not the correct term you've used. But forgive me. Carry on.
So perhaps if I could understand those feelings a little more deeply, perhaps one day, Nathaniel, I could be just like you.
Well, let's hope that day comes to fruition. I suggest you go and watch The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, or Dirty Harry, and reinvestigate those feelings, Richard.
Nathaniel.
Yes?
I think I love you.
That's very sweet.
And that's all from Passive Aggressive Film Reviews this week. We'll be back next week when we'll be catching something on current release, delving into the archives, and no doubt sticking our noses into something topical. Goodbye.
Ciao.